Hello, everyone. Good morning. How's everyone doing? Good morning, John. Good morning, Sterling. Sterling with lots of news and earnings. Yeah, NVIDIA was a beat. Disappointing to the street last night, though, and did not give as strong guidance as they thought. But it was down last night, and now it's pre-market. Just it's been on a buying tear, and I think it's actually up at this point. So, market is absolutely shrugging off every little ounce of bad news or not as good news and cheerleading everything to just keep it going higher. This really reminds me. Now this can keep going on for a while, but this really reminds me, especially with just discounting everything and just trying to. It's already getting bid up every day, and now articles out there, everything is just trying to pump more stuff into it. It's like, all right, this is like the last final throws of the .com, and you have positions in U.S. equity futures by asset managers. Okay, look at uh this. This is in nosebleed territory. This is in nosebleed territory. There is not a bear in sight. So can it keep going? I don't know what's going to derail it, but an ICBM even launched by Russia won't derail it. Just keep buying, keep buying. You know, so we will see. Where I think did you put deer in here, Sterling? I thought I saw it. Let's see. We got. Oh, I like the little colored dots. How are you doing? So we got blue, red, and green. Blue is related. I don't know what the different dots mean. So we have the Storm Shadow attack on Russia. The Britain Storm Shadow missiles. Where is it? Yes, they put oh boy, there's just too much to talk about. I can't even get through all this. The ICC issues an arrest warrant for Israel PM Netanyahu. Yep. So there you go. There's deer. Deer. It was a beat. Did you look at the and they guided down and it's still, and did you look at the revenue figures versus past quarters? Look at the last quarter versus this quarter revenue with deer. But we don't need to and now we're all up to date. Good. Oh yeah, Baidu. Baidu was a miss on EPS, but beat on revenue. We had the Philly Fed come out. I'll go through that in a second. We got to say good morning to Patrick. What else do we have here? Bitcoin extends rally to a record of more than 98,000. And MicroStrategy just gone vertical. This is not going to end well. It will keep going until it doesn't. But it's not going to. See here, you got more cheerleading. Bloomberg saying NVIDIA Blackwell is the LeBron James of chips. Did LeBron overheat? Remind me, Royal Palms. Good morning, Jacob. Good morning, Heinrich. Good morning, Mark. Hello, Charles. What else? Good morning, Anissa. Did I miss? Supposedly, Russia hit Ukraine with an ICBM. So, red is one news source, blue is another news source, green is earnings. Okay. Yeah, it was like 13.9 billion, 9 billion. They moved the goalpost for deer. Just keep looking at this. We're celebrating. We're standing around clapping around a Ford Focus. We're clapping like thinking it's a Ferrari. We're looking at a Ford Focus and treating it like a Ferrari. That's the market we're in. Okay? Hey, MJ. So we had initial jobless claims coming in very low, 213, but continuing jobless claims. So people that have already been laid off, and with all the layoffs announcements, and all the people getting laid off, I'm surprised this isn't. I'm not saying it should be a lot higher, but I'm surprised it's not higher. Continuous jobless claims. So this is something to keep watching. Continuing jobless claims top in 1900, continuing to rise. So people who have been laid off are not able to find employment. That is, again, recessionary. Because as you continue, as once initial jobless claims keep coming in, I wish they had knocked out inflation though. Also remember, I want to jump ahead. Remember next Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving in the U.S. market, Wednesday's not a market holiday, but we have the GDP, second estimate for Q3, and the PCE numbers coming in the day before Thanksgiving, which is notoriously light trading. I'm just wondering if we're going to keep trying to rise up into that, and then that's going to be the tipping point, because remember, we have cycles heading back up. Philly Fed, the business conditions through the roof, 56.6 prior 36.7. It's, again, these numbers don't make any sense. They're all over the place. Prices paid coming back down a little. New orders dropping though, and the Philly Fed employment bouncing back up. What else do we have today? Existing and new home sales coming out 10 a.m. Eastern. We have the Consumer Board Leading Index. I'm really interested to see if this is still in contraction. Remember how long it's been in contraction. And we got Goolsby and Hammock speaking this at around lunchtime, Eastern time. Tomorrow being Friday, we have the S&P Composite Manufacturing and Services and the Consumer Inflation final numbers, the sentiment and inflation numbers for November. In terms of the market, NVIDIA now back up. Look at this, now up 2%. So the market completely shrugging off everything. Buy, 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 buy. Buy all technology, except for Google. There you go. Adhere even up on this 2%. It's literally buy everything. Hold your nose and buy. It's got to go higher. Technology, energy, utilities. Let's refresh this. Everything's up today. Nothing is negative. Fed watch is actually back to pretty much 50-50. Do they cut or pause? And the market's still like, all right, whatever. Fear and greed, probably going to pop back up into greed today. Schiller PE, not back over 38 yet. So the market's still cheap. We already covered earnings. There's really not much to round out the week. Intuit, Gap, Ross, NetApp, nothing really that's going to move the market. And then tomorrow morning, I don't even know what those companies are. So again, we're done with that for the week. Remember, they're shrugging off everything. Just Target was down, but that's probably going to get shrugged off too. So there's your NVIDIA. Next key targets. We'll just start with that because it's buy, buy, buy. Mortimer, buy. 151.14, 153.28 are the next two minor targets higher. S&P. We had the percent B buy. Lots of volatility in there. Lots of volatility yesterday, but still falling through. Coming in on that 62.5. So I'm watching this 59.79 area. Close above there. Then my target goes back to, I'm going to still use 6,003 because it's a round number and it's a 75, but then the real magnet price is 6,028. Okay, so that's where we sit with that to the upside. Those are the levels I'm using. If we come back down on any selling pressure, it's 59.55, and then very significant support is coming in about 59.35. Other than that, we're in still the top zone. That's why I'll be looking to see if we get a significant topping pattern, and I need a significant topping pattern at least on a 4-hour basis. Other than that, I'm going to be watching at 59.79 for follow through. What is this? This is huge. The 90-day auto delinquency rate is higher than the peak reached in 2009. I know there's and mortgage delinquencies are rising. What ticker is ICBM? Oh, yeah, I've worked when I was a CTO for a couple of things, I've been in some data centers with, especially for some of the racks for the big racks filled with a lot of processing for us, and doing a lot of the processing for high speed stuff. And man, the cooling stuff around those racks, even the liquid cooled stuff, it's amazing. All right. What else you have? Good morning, Dark Screen. Why go? Hold on. We'll get to gold in a second, Dark Screen. Yeah, everything. Google's like down 0.5% on the recognition get broken up. You just, this is why in the short term it's still up. NASDAQ, this did not invalidate. Remember, I had people ask me yesterday if this was invalidated. Remember, we didn't hit the first target. We've hit the first stop level now. It has to trade until you hit the first stop level. You keep the original harmonics. It had to trade below the 75. It came close, but did not trade below, or it has to close below the 62.5. Neither of which it did. It dipped into that briefly and then continued to rally. So that's why it is still valid. Now it's hitting the stop raise right now. So the invalidation point, this is what, it doesn't mean this is where you need to have your stops. It's where what would invalidate the trade would now be below 20,508 or closing back below 20,571 since we just officially raised the stop. Other than that, so you got the NASDAQ. I failed to mention on the S&P, the cycles are still heading back up, can easily head back up through the rest of this week, even in the beginning of next week. NASDAQ, we had the double trigger and just hit the first target with the cycle still climbing. Next key area is roughly this 20,963, and then you have the 62.5 in the way, 20,987. So that would be a very strong target area I'd be looking at. Right now, the support going into the open is about 20,835, and major support coming in about 20,735. The Dow, a very weird offset inverse head and shoulders. Not even going to put up those targets. My next target is 43,808 if that continues to rally. The support coming into the open is about 43,570. The Russell trying to bounce up here. If the Russell continues, and you're seeing a little selling pressure in the Dow and the Russell, the mania is going on in the NASDAQ and the S&P. If the Russell does continue, it's 2369. But if the market's somewhat starting to tip where it's 50-50 with rate cuts, that could put a damper on the Russell. Hey, PMG, thank you for tuning in. Thanks, Royal Palms. Main Street is not doing well. People who hold all the assets are still fine. The market's treating it like no tomorrow. By the way, but just, I mean, we'll get to some other stuff, but where's the old Bitcoin? There's the old Bitcoin closing in on the 99K target. But who thinks this is going to end well? Who thinks this is going to end well? Can it keep going? Yeah. Where is it pre-market? 541. On how many vertical up, vertical down? There's your monthly chart. Who thinks this is going to end well for MicroStrategy? There's your weekly chart. Can it keep going? It'll keep going until it doesn't. But it's going to be the vertical up, vertical down principle. You watch. Don't know what's going to tip it. I have a question. If you remember how China sort of banned Bitcoin? Remember they got rid of all the mining and everything else? If they were to do a massive cyber attack on all these Bitcoin miners and all the Bitcoin stuff, I know there's a lot of redundancy there, but if they had a coordinated massive cyber attack and taking a bunch of that offline, what would happen to Bitcoin? especially if they had a coordinated movement with going into Taiwan. Just spitballing there. Just spitballing. VIX back below 16. No fear in this market whatsoever. The DAX, not much to talk about here. Not much to talk about here. There's not a lot of good setups right now in the DAX, and sometimes that happens with markets. Notes, just still back to cycle highs, back out of very oversold, trying to roll over again. Remember, we have the PCE numbers coming out next week. So it's burned off its oversold condition, come back to the rotation zone. Now we watch for rotation back down. And so far for the 10-year yield, clearly out of overbought, getting cycles to the bottom and trying to turn back up in the rotation zone. But there's not a great setup yet from my perspective. Dollar index is in minor double top territory, might never trigger. That could be a pullback into the daily rotation zone in the prior breakout level at that 105 if it were to trigger. But other than that, daily cycle's back to the bottom and trying to turn back up. Crude, after a percent beat buy, we had a little pause yesterday, but still hanging in there and still trying to move up. This is scalpy only. If it does continue to move up, the next major target is about 71.75. This would be in trailing mode for me. Natty gas. Potential double top obviously did not trigger. We had the question about natty gas though. Breaking. So, natty gas on the weeklies, stair-stepping higher with higher lows through the spring and summer, paused last week at these highs and now breaking out this week. So there's a very key resistance up here about 350. 350, that would be if you're trying to play this alongside, I'd definitely look at least raising a stop there. But could natty gas be trying to take out, because if it takes out 350, you're into a clear path move with potentially, let me get off a couple of these other lines, the older lines, with a potential target of possibly $5 again. And let's do our harmonics. I guess I'll get into natty gas. I'm on Ninja Trader next Wednesday morning. I know it's the day before Thanksgiving, but if you're interested, I'll be on Ninja Trader next Wednesday. And I think I'm also on Ninja Trader the following Monday. So I'm sort of bracketing the long holiday weekend. Yeah, really, I'd be watching if this breaks out higher and, can get through this 350 top, then we're looking at about 470 to 495. Gold, back in buying mode. We have to see where it closes. Remember, we closed below here. So any buy pattern, and there was a pretty decent one earlier in the week for a short-term bounce, but I cannot get in bullish mode before 2704. Remember, we don't have to fully respect. It can shift into neutral mode again. It wasn't bearish mode short term. It can shift into neutral mode. Why didn't it stop? What the rotation zone means is we watch for setups. Do we have a sell setup yet? I don't have one. Looking on time frames, I'm watching for any kind of sell setup. I don't have one yet. And by the way, this pattern has not been invalidated. It's back to the right-hand weak shoulder, and we're back to the 50% retracement. With cycles getting to the top area, it has to get above 2704 on a closing basis before it shifts the probabilities back. So that's why I said yesterday this would be in trailing mode, looking for short setups or looking for rollover setups. We don't have one yet. All right, what else? The yen in mini potential double top territory. So that's the only thing I'm keep watching for a little. If we're going to get further yen weakness, we have to get a daily close below 153.28. Euro. On a daily, we have a very sloppy double bottom. But cycles at the top, so I'm not even watching for that to trigger. I'm watching for the euro to break this base. The only thing that would shift me is if it does get back above this high of 106, or really 1061. Let's jump to Royal Palms. Wanted DraftKings right at, let me pull off this other one, right at the 75. Now remember, it closed back above the 62.5, pulled back to the rotation zone, setting up. This was a percent B buy right here. And remember, you're above the 62.5. So my rule, the minor target is the 75. The magnet target is the 87.5. So you're nearly trying to check off the minor target, and then still the magnet target is right in front of 47. Let me just check one thing. That would not be a double. It does not look like. That would still technically barely be valid, but I don't know if the targets work. Yeah, it technically does. So your stop level. Now, if this goes up a little bit higher, it's going to invalidate this. But a great stop level would be this low of 38.94. Why? That would trigger, that would have lost the 200, lost the rotation zone, and probably lost the 50 EMA by the time it triggered. And be a little mini double top. VRT. Oh, look at the weekly on this thing. Let's take a look. So then we don't have another pausing bar on the weekly, so we have to go to pausing bar on the daily. So VRT, the next target, stalling out at this minor harmonic right here, but the next target would be 147.28. The key support coming in at 130. Jesus stuff. Wow. Just looking at this. Again, you have a P to E 93. 93. These are not long-term investments. These are trading vehicles only. But that's your next key target. I was just going to bring up, hold on. I was just actually going to bring up Palantir. By the way, this is one of the most overpriced stocks I've ever seen in my life. P to E 318. Insiders selling like there's no tomorrow. Gee, I would be too. But can you use the long-term cup and handle? No. At this point, boy, if you're looking for the next, let's just see where the most recent swing on a daily basis takes us with the pausing area and the weeklies. Let's see if it does. When these things crap out, it's going to be interesting. So here you go. Here's your targets. Should it continue, you have minor 69. Then you have your major target cluster 71 to 72, 7160 to 72. Whew. I mean, this, though, it's gone completely vertical. So I'll get to Tesla. Let's just get to some of these other. Tesla, by the way, you still do have a potential double top. You still have this little area right in here. That's your minor magnet price is still 352.50 area. The only thing is if you have very key support at this 334 area, if that breaks, it'd be the gap fill, and then you lose the gap fill, it would trigger the double. But even on a rise to 352 or even 358 does not invalidate the potential double, so that's a great trailing level. Richard's watching SPEU. Whew, that's wow. Ooh. Oh wow. That's a good one, Richard. I have not looked at that. You lose this key major support. Look at this. So you had a resistance, broke through, tested with support, roll over on the weekly rotation zone now has gone negative. So any rallies, but man, even with a bounce, I'd be looking for a breakdown of this. That's a nice, and in the short term, boy, and then if you lose 38.31, look at that. That's that little spike low there to 62.5. You would have lost a 200 weekly. That could be interesting. Now it is oversold, so I'd be looking for potential bounce play setups and rollovers. There's a confirmed daily double top in Comcast. They're hurting and looking to spin off their whole. Yeah, they are looking to spin off a lot of their networks. There is a confirmed but not triggered double top. It is, yeah, it has been triggered. Has it? Let me see. I can't. I gotta check it. You can't just assume. What was the low here? 42.32. 42.32. Close right at it. Technically not triggered. It's confirmed but not triggered. That would be interesting. By the way, if I was structuring a trade in this to the short side, if it does trigger, I'd be using this target area first. I'd be using that as a very key area with the 200 being there with this prior major support level and just behind the stop. See if I go to this, yeah, that'd be roughly where I'd be setting it up. Thank you for pointing that out, Sterling. Let's see. With all the mania, let's see where the tick opened. Not a very strong tick opening. Only below 800. So going to be watching to see how this reacts. How it reacts coming into this key support area, this 59.60. And then if it breaks through there, what's going on with the charts? 59.50. So 59.60 and 59.50. We'll see if this mania holds. Let's see where NVDA. Look at this. Look at this. This is absolutely insane price action. Again, this reminds me of the final throes of the spring of, right before the dot-com burst. It's just everything's off your charts bullish with insane valuations. Thank you, Richard. Thank you for tuning in. And again, I really appreciate everyone turning in and listening to me uh, ramble on. This is getting to mania phase. It still technically did not invalidate the double top yet. Is there a 1 hour double or 4 hour double top on gold? I'll look again. Well, does this look like any double top? No. Not on the 4 hour. There's a little mini potential one on the 1 hour. That is valid, but it would have to, remember, it has to still close below this 2662 area. And that's only a minor pullback one. So that's a very minor potential double top because you put it on the 4 hour, that's just in the 4 hour rotation zone. So that's a first sign of a top that could turn into something bigger. And those are the kinds of things you're looking at. Because see, let's say that triggers. Let's say the gold rolls over and then that triggers. That would be a down candle still after hitting that 50% area. And then if it turned down and closes back below this 2663, it closed within the rotation zone still. Well, know when your brain is fried and step back. NASDAQ. Ooh. After hitting the first target on the double, that was, woo. That is heading down quickly. So the smarter money, and their double top triggered. Wow, that was quick and went to target instantly. So some more sanity coming in at the open, but let's see what happens. Oh boy, remember on the S&P, between the 50 and 62 still is the rollover zone. All right. Ted, that says something about you then. Have you considered help for that problem? Yeah. Thank you, though. All right, everyone. And pay attention to what Charles said here. On days you don't have to trade every day. There's lots of days, you know what? I wish those numbers weren't coming out next Wednesday because you know what? I just don't want to. Oh, you're sick. I'm sorry, Ted. I hope you feel better, buddy. Do you have the cold or the flu or what? What do you have? Because my wife had that. It's been horrible. She's going on 3 weeks and still she got it from traveling. And she's not a person that ever gets sick. And she's been fighting it off for 3 weeks, turned into a minor sinus infection, had to get antibiotics for it. And I've fighting it off, but it's been 2 weeks. I had a few bad days, but it's been 2 weeks. So I don't know what you have, but geez. The colds this year, they are brutal. Over to bend and beyond all hope. Trading every day, I agree. I'm not ever recommending. I recommend most people don't short-term trade. I like more the swing trading and the longer term. Now, what's the next mover? It's going to be Sterling is PCE next Wednesday. There is nothing. You got your minor stuff tomorrow. Your minor tomorrow, come on, is with don't discount. These are the final numbers, especially the inflation expectations. Okay, because we have the Fed watch. I just want to refresh this. Remember, this was like 80%. Now it's 55 to 40. So it's pulled back. It's gone up slightly more in favor of the cut, but until this gets over 90%, it's not a done deal. Okay? Tomorrow, though, we have inflation expectations, which you really pay attention to that, because if they continue to bump back up, and then we follow through next Wednesday with the PCE numbers for October, especially if they come in slightly hotter than expected. Where's the core PCE? I mean, your core PCE is expected to come in 0.3%. I think. Yeah, that's where it's forecast. We just don't have a consensus yet. But where does that put it? That puts it at 3. You multiply that by 12, that's 3.6%. That's nowhere near a 2% target. So next Wednesday, even though we all want to take it off, that's going to get interesting. So that's the two key things I'm watching for next. More so next Wednesday, but consumer inflations with the odds of a rate cut dropping in December, and that could really shake up the market. Yeah, it's gone insane. It's gone insane. You know, it didn't. Was there a story also yesterday with Microsoft saying we've probably reached? NVIDIA can keep selling chips, but at some point you hit a density in your racks and everything else, and you don't throwing more chips at it doesn't make the training the AI any more efficient. That's the other thing. And NVIDIA won't remain the only game in town forever. So if you're valuing this, it would be like if Apple only produced a smartphone. Instead, look at all the products Apple, and I think Apple's massively overvalued. I'm waiting for, especially with the disappointing numbers out of China and Apple. You want to talk about another one that's P to E of 37? There'd be no way I'm buying Apple at a P to E to 37 at this point. No way it's a long-term holding. I mean, no way it's a short to medium-term holding. For a long term, it'd be in trailing mode. Do I have a next lower level for NASDAQ? It already just hit it. 20,000, about 625. You lose 20,625. Your next key level, let me see. I want to do some retracements here. Because then we're watching, then watch 20,578. It came back down to this 50% harmonic of these purple lines and is bouncing right there, right against some key support. But if it rolls over, then closes back below 20,578, the probabilities in the very short term have tipped lower again. And also remember, with the stop being where it is for the double, if it closes below 20,578, 75, the double, the remaining targets after only hitting the first one would be off the table. So that is a very key level to watch. All right. And then below that, if it did close below 20,578, and you can use that, on 1 to 4 hour basis. Then your next is 2513, so right around your 20,500, 20,513. And then you have 20,448, so 20,450 would be the magnet price. All right. With that, sorry for rambling on so long. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. You are welcome, Richard. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I will see you all for Consumer Sentiment Friday. I'll talk to everyone later. Bye for now.